The Earth orbits the sun, the way a shark orbits an unassuming school of fish, or the remnants of chum thrown into the water. Sometimes we see ourselves as the shark, when really we are playing the role of prey. What do we see when we look in the mirror? Ourselves or someone else? How do we know who is staring back at us? And how do we know who is wearing the wolf's clothes? Perhaps second-year poet Mariah Yusofzei has the answer.
I hope I'm not disappointing, but sadly I do not have the answer. Passages through Darren Q. I see an apse like a ghost rising out of you, and I let him rise, and rising still, say, is it his wine? For all but you I have neglected, ignored. Or the way he trembles over a threshold white. I follow you down eastern aisles, and still rising, I say, is this enough to create you? But I, for you, have all neglected, ignored. Forgive me. The doves by our window say more of us between unkempt junipers than I. For all at Winchester, staircases are developed in foresight only and lead nowhere to reason. They shouldn't be sought after there. Windows discover forgotten rooms, those that haven't served their purpose, adjoining one observer looking into the next, in hopes this will confuse those who follow, the 13 who linger in the halls and stumble. You'll find no willows here. They moved their roots long ago with the earthquake, taking 3 of the 7 stories with them. She sleeps in a different room each night. Can the imagination deny a thing that lives among it? An appreciation or a deprivation, her blueprints used to know which. She labors her home as I labor a poem, half eccentric and alive. After death, we bring bowls of crystal and plum to saints under black tupelos, our house empty and alive, where death resembles dotted half notes in quick succession, the music of the night. And God says the dead have nothing to tell. Their stories are channeled through snaps and tangles of earth unmasked. Rossetti's goblins teach us of death. Through orchard offerings, they ask if we taste the difference as we wither, mouths still watering. Our plums become entrapped, seeping into roots that break, and with tears he tosses us across the nape of Asteria's neck, like a pomegranate, so many to count. She said to let the poem live in me, I'll make room. For how long? Give or take a few days. A few days? How many days? I don't have the specifics, just give it time to settle. Time to settle? I don't want my poem to settle. I want it to unsettle. You'll thank me later. How much time? You'll feel when it's ready. But how long? Days? Weeks? Months? It won't be years, right? If that's what will, tell me it won't be years. Try 2 weeks. 2 full weeks? Yes, 2 weeks. I'll start the clock for you now. But I've already drafted my lines. Delete them. Delete them? Do you know how long it took me to write those 6 lines? I remember. I was there. But before deleting them, recite them. Bring them back to you in their original form. Let them take up space inside of you. And where do you suppose I store them, these lines? Where will I find the room? Underneath your breastbone or your rib cage. Either will do. I'll help you carve the space for them. When you can't take the aching any longer, you know they are ready. Sounds painful, as freezing persons recollect the snow, starting to cry. First chill, then stupor, then the letting go. The rose window. I, as eastern bluebird, standing on telephone wires, the ephemeral word for rose pronounced here. Sounds of time within the life of a poem, traveler among the meek pronounced her. The crinkled shirt you keep unfolded by your bedside, you as the music score I leave unfinished, a glass jar of sunsets where I bathe each morning, a veil behind a story untold, keeper of a paradise. You tell of children who lead lions astray, wearing crowns of calorie pear trees. They are givers of roses to north windows at Reims. They are eternal seers through small hands. They are painter and poet. He as 22, father and son and brother, the mask of love, the sound of birth in spring, the act of being remade into the boy of his youth. She as the flood of 1,000 rivers, white, giver of refuge from glass towers, lost fleur-de-lis of a missed birthday year, a blood moon unclean. We are spokes on this wheel. We are weavers of lines, a beautiful accumulation, the Gothic world of the word for rose familiar here. The pianist, as he plays Nocturne in C minor. Memory is a baby piano, a jarring corner of his 2-bedroom flat. Hands reaffirming riffs from his 20s. He recalls measured gestures, the curvature of fingers above muted keys, starved moments, the stripping of pins from a music box stalled after 1940. After monarchs. Worlds are comprised of the smallness of things, she says. She gets small curls, the heaviness of hair, knowing heritage by one name to Hera, pronounced like Sahara, a desert rose. Shopping lists are useless, she says, if there's no room for the cotton candy cart, the tall ice cream sundae ornaments. She insists her tree stands till mid-January, asking, is the moon tired? What are heavy? I see the face of God, she says, standing before Chihuli's monarchs, all the while saying he simply had an idea of one. Afterwards creating her own, his rose sea form, in writing the name aloud, alone. I look for ghosts in places where I can hardly find them. In Emily's writings, where her dashes separate a life imagined from a life retold. In the stirrings of seagulls on the Baltic, ice clinging to salt waters like hairs of citrine spun by sailors. I look for ghosts where I can hardly find them. In the birthday cake that sits on the kitchen counter, its sweetness serves the hour well, yet seems to dissipate upon arrival. I look for ghosts where I can hardly find them. In the childhood games of hiding and chasing, the makings of children who shelter small sons in their hands at all hours. Thank you.